Evet değerli seyirciler, ben Ariel'e
Well, yes, I would like to thank Dan Ariely. Thank you very much. My name is Attila Köksal. Dan Ariely, by the way, participated, joined in our conference without any return, without any expectations. We would like to thank him very much. With the CCL laboratory, we carry out certain works together, and maybe later on I'll talk about them. And I have very valuable three speakers with me. One of them is Suhail Baltaş, and Mehmet Gers and Mehmet Akif Yıldıztekin. Very briefly, I'll also introduce them to you. And our CVs are all available on the conference documents. And if you wish, you can have a look at them. We'll be talking about behavioral finance and how did the behaviors of consumers and investors behaviors change during pandemic. Maybe I can talk about behavioral finance concept because there could be certain people who are not familiar to that concept. Actually, when you are here, it's not my task to express its details, but so I'll start, but if I have any excuses, please forgive me. And I think Turkey is a big financial laboratory. Why am I saying this? Because there is no other second country than Turkey having 30 years of starting from 1970s till 2010 maybe, for about 40 years approximately. There's no other country like Turkey has gone through an inflation period about 49%. So a couple of generations actually have experienced this inflation environment. They were born in inflation environment. They also worked in an inflation environment. There is no second country like us. And again, in 1970s, 1980s, 1960s again. So since that date onward, Turkey has cope with many challenges. So I started to work in the midst of 1980s, and I found myself in the midst of the crisis of Gulf and Asia and Russia. So in Turkey, there have been many political crises, like 2008 crisis, the financial crisis. We had this gigantic banking financial crisis. There were many natural disasters, earthquakes, and also terrorist actions. And one day the Minister of Treasury, Minister of Finance attempted to commit suicide. So we were in this crisis environment. Even today, just a few minutes ago, there was earthquake and the foreign exchange rate, the dollar parity, just reached 10.50 lira. So it has deeply affected our behaviors. So high inflation and also continuous economic and political crisis made Turkish investors think in short terms and act in short terms. And Turkish investors, maybe household of Turkey, when we have a look at the total portfolio of these people, a majority of our portfolio is on the short-term investment instruments in TL, in gold, or else in foreign exchange, not in the long-term capital markets instruments or else stocks. It's about 10%. So 1/3 of this amount is maybe kept in our houses, just under the pillows. And so investor profile in Turkey is very different. So in this behavioral finance, we can say that we evaluate behavioral aspects of economics. Psychology and economy is merged together, and we try to see how our thinking, our mentality affects our investments. Each and every day, on average, we take 35,000 decisions, according to a study done by Cornell University, only with respect to food issues. We might take 250 decisions. 25,000 decisions. So those 35,000 decisions are not necessarily important. Like, should I turn right or left? Should I take this or not? These are some ordinary decisions, but some of them are very big decisions, like having a budget or else decision for marriage or investment. So these are some more important decisions. And our brain manages these decisions with its different zones. Behavioral finance has the history of 20, 25 years. Its popularity has increased in recent years, and one of the pioneers of this scientific branch is Daniel Kahneman. According to his article, according to his book called Thinking Slow and Fast, Professor Daniel Kahneman talks about how our thinking processes work. There's two different modes for human brains. One is fast mode, the other one is slow mode. Fast mode is our primitive thinking modality. So it is on the limbic system located on the middle part of our brain. So on the limbic system, our emotions and our impulses and long-term memory are managed. And on the limbic system, so on a daily basis, maybe 34,500 of 35,000 are taken. Some fast, some unimportant decisions are taken. And other parts, Daniel Kahneman says that this is system one. This is a primitive, ancient thinking system, fast thinking system. And the second one is called as system number two. Acar Baltaş, Professor Dr. Acar Baltaş, in his book also describes them as the feeling brain and thinking brain. I think these are great expressions. The brain which feels is the reflexive brain, that we think very fast and we immediately act, which protects us against threats. And the second one is the area that we take important decisions, like we get the pen and paper and make calculations and also prepare budgets. So a frontal lobe of our brain is functioning. It's valid in all memory animals. But it is the most developed one on the humans. The frontal lobe is the area that we take our decisions. So these two systems are needed. These are indispensable because they protect us against threats, and also energy consumption of our brain is minimized because among our organs, our brain uses the highest level of energy. So this fast thinking system, should I turn right or should I turn left, without thinking too much when you walk on the road, that fast thinking system is functioning and it decreases our energy use. So yes, we need both of them. But where the problem occurs, this primitive brain, this feeling, the sensible maybe brain, sympathetic brain, is in conflict with the thinking brain. So it might be intervening in the situation. If we take decisions with our with our sympathetic, with our maybe sensible or feeling brain, then we can take some wrong decisions, and we might say them cognitive wrongful acts and cognitive illusions. It is because of lack of information, and there could be some emotional illusions triggered by anxiety, and there is also some other illusions based on social interaction. So all in all, we are involved in these illusions because of our brain system. And along with the developing technology, maybe there could be certain external factors which might change our behaviors on investments, consumptions. There could be some people or companies, they try to maybe trigger us, stimulate us all the time, or else they are intervening in us and they are giving stimuli to us. So this is maybe just a summary for what we are going to talk about, and we can just dive into our topic. So all in all, this financial behavior, this behavioral finance topic is very crucial, especially in Turkey, in terms of the behaviors of the consumers and also the investors. We have to understand the importance of behavior of finance. So this is my personal recommendation to all portfolio managers, investor advisors, and also customer representatives in this Capital Markets Board Congress should understand behavioral finance issues better so that they could provide services to their customers with this knowledge and conscience. Of course, our investors should also learn about these issues because from time to time we could be trapped in disillusions. Yes, now I'll give the floor to real expert, real specialist of this topic, Ms. Zuhair Baltash. Zuhair Baltash is a very valuable academician, and she is a psychologist. She is also a medical doctor, and she's not just an academic, but she is also an implementer on the field. She is the founder of Nudge Turkey, and she works on behavioral changes on Nudge Foundation. And in one of the projects that we work together, maybe the professor can touch upon it. But so I have some questions for her. Let me ask this straight away. During the pandemic, along with its effects and along with this changing and developing technologies, financial technologies, there were many changes happening and effects over the consumers. How can you say about them? What are your observations? Thank you very much.
So you clearly explained the subject. Well, when I am talking about this subject where nobody is going to get worried, pandemic definitely has affected the behaviors. But before talking about this, I also would like to talk a little bit on how the pandemic has negatively impacted us, because those who are physicians do know very well, including the WHO, there has been a great confusion. If you have a pandemic, you just have to think about 2 years ahead, because you need to make an exploration, you need to have a finding from the point of view of medical treatment. And on the other hand, you also have to tackle upon the behavioral psychological changes. And one step here is the weakness of the management. And we can talk about this in 4 pillars. It is very much important what they do not know, what they know, what they do not know, and when to say it. And more importantly, the first value, if the first information and its value. If it's, we were talking about the mask issue. I'm not really sure that whether we are understanding it properly or not. But all of this is created pollution of information. So it also created a confusion in mind from the first degree and created prejudices. Osman Haydar has made a study and said that in Turkey, the videos shown in Turkey, as for content and visuals, is wrong at about 65%, and the number is really high. So it's to actually absorb it. And that's the reason why many systems are also involved and has confused the minds. A person who is confused can have prejudices, and these prejudices, one of these prejudices is an actually prejudice of a pluralist prejudice, because they cannot say that they couldn't understand what's happening. And that is the reason why they just follow the steps of their closest ones. And on the other hand, he thinks that whatever he does can be done by everyone. This is what the way people would think. And that amount is 65%. Then that means that we all have the same opinion, that this is a pluralistic ignorance bias. And within all this confusion, how can we manage the decisions? First of all, there are social democratic factors. I'm not going to be talking about them. We all know them. Mr. Atilla has clearly stated the brain that feels and thinks, and the norms, and the personality, the character. And that brings us to a decision. If there is a change in situation, depending on the situation, there can be also changes in a life. For instance, in medicine, a change has happened in norms, and there is also a necessity to have a norm change in the health sector. That was really hard. I'm not going to get into details, but of course, when the conditions change, the norms change, and then those who are out of their control conditions have hard time to abide by new norms. For instance, when you go to another country, for instance, the changes you're going to do will be easier, but there are also character change features, the personalities, the perception, the way the people are interpreting the life are the features that we have. And these features come from childhood, and in time it can change and develop. And that structure brings us from decisions to behaviors. These are the psychological dynamics. As we are measuring our behaviors, we have some certain clues at hand, and one of them are personality measures, which have been developed throughout the years. And I'm just going to be talking about some research upon it. For instance, there are 4 aspects that are really changing the attitudes in spending, saving, and investment. For instance, what type of suggestions should be delivered by taking the personalities into consideration? For instance, openness. It's to be open to experience. For instance, it can be actually making an adventure sport or eating a new food. Same here, how to invest in which stock exchange. This type of an attitude occurs in these types of areas. For some, that doesn't occur. To be open to action. If a person is open to action, then we have another way of attitude. And also, we can see such type of behaviors in impulsive purchase, or low cautiousness, openness, and high emotional coherence, which is actually the externality in a character. For instance, if, as from financial point of view in risks and attitudes, the impulsive risk, the people who have an impulsive risk has a different approach to actually be in a financial tool. And there are instrumental risks and there are stimulating risks, which are actually impacting the behavior. So the risk perception and the calculation is totally different in our brain. So we are talking about the pandemic. And what about saving and pandemic? Did we invest in savings during pandemic? So we know that there have been plenty of news about the pandemic, but as said before, those who can make the investments so that they can make investments, or those who can actually hear about the news in order to make investments is lesser. So when we take a look to the reasons why a saving cannot be made, this research has given us an important information, the deaths of the people in Turkey, and due to the fact they have low income, the way of the management of the finances of the income is really made in a certain level. And on the other hand, those who cannot make a saving is differing amongst each other as well. Those who have children, those who do have children. So that also changes in between. We talk about Daniel Kahneman. Economists think about what people should do. And as Kahneman has said, with Homo economicus, we have lost many years from the 40s until today. We have thought about the form as economists, but we forgot about the people. And we psychologists definitely have to try to follow what people do, what, why, and when. Monay is a Turkish entrepreneur. It is following the attitudes, the behaviors of the people. And by checking it out, it is using the art AI and is looking to the behavioral economy. And this is a structure that has occurred in the first 9 months. When taking a look to the savings of the people, they by only managing their frailties, they could only actually save 3,208 liras. They have a target, but that target has exceeded what they were expecting. So, in such an hour, following this such an algorithm, the nudges, because there is a management with nudges, Richard Thaler and Sunstein has been bringing up this issue. It has to be plain, it has to be simple, it has to be easy to implement, and it has to be attractive as well. It has to attract the people, and the people should feel excitement about this. And on the other hand, we shouldn't forget that people are social beings, and that's why they are actually interconnected with the societies, and that's the reason why we need to give messages accordingly. And people want to immediately receive a result. If there's a risk, if they're under pressure, then in order to control it, they have to keep the time at a shorter term. That's the reason why the time control has to be done at the right place at the right time in nudges. It is a little bit more different than a European looking to the monochromic time. So we are a society that is using the time at a more distributed way. What we have to do in an hour is programmed accordingly to what we think. But if there's a threat, then we return to the primitive mind, and then we expect an immediate result. And that's the reason why in the studies that we make, those who are entering to a shopping mall so that they are not under debt, they receive some certain warnings, for instance, as it is said before. We have listened to this from Dan as well. FODER, together with the United States Corporation, I suppose you had the opportunity to watch it last year, the mid-class people in Turkey, so that they can actually manage their financial terms. You have actually signed a protocol, and you put Monay inside it as well. So this is the way we are actually following the protocol. I hope that we will be having the opportunity to talk about the results of Monay next year. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. They were very wonderful subjects. As for Dash, we were also working together with CCN, and we are also making studies with Dan's team. And Mr. Gus is also a part of it. We have also received a training at the Duke University. Together with Monay and together with Deniz I, we have also another study that we are making with the farmers, so that the people can make a better management and the credit costs. We have a certain study. And as for that, we are making studies about financial literacy. And also, on the other hand, we are combining it with the behavioral aspects in our training, so that we can have a more permanent behavioral change. And now I would like to give the floor to a second speaker, Mehmet Akif Yıldıztekin.
Teknoloji, fintech uzmanı diyebilirim herhalde. Deniz Yatırım'da dijital strateji.
Thank you very much. And on the markets, he's been working more than 10 years. And he works in Deniz Investment as digital investment strategist. We've been talking about investment agencies and portfolio managers. They need to know their customers. They need to understand their behaviors. And Mehmet is a very valuable portfolio manager for years. We've been trying to do this, but we failed, because investors sometimes they explain themselves to us in a way that they create a totally different profile, and they mislead us, but the logo investors, I guess, they make different robo advisors, I guess, they have a different way of evaluating the behaviors of the consumers. Technological changes, developments. There was a boom on the fintech in many areas, and how and in what aspects the behaviors of the investors changed. I'd like to thank you very much. We've come to the end of the panel. It's been very tiring and very busy, but I'd like to thank everyone, and for us to have a look at the technological development. If we have a look at the very near past, 20 years ago, actually technology was a luxury. We used to have the TVs with tubes, but right now we have HD televisions. Technology was something luxury, so specific to the stock exchange, because we are talking about stock markets. So there was teletext broadcasts in towards 1990s. Technology again was a bit luxurious, but 10 years ago when I started to work in the sector, mobile applications and computers and smartphones have started to become very widespread in our lives, and personal transformation, technological transformation gave their signals. And in today's conditions, it's not luxury, it's not need, it's something obligation. Actually, it's obligatory. We have new smartphones and we are renewing the models. Tablets are also updated each and every year. New processors are launched. Technology has become obligatory for us after smartphones became available in our lives. What kind of things changed in our lives? For instance, we used to have certain rooms, we were writing manual tables and we were undersigning certain documents, but compared to 10 years ago, these kind of things have become much more digitalized, and these rooms were closed by intermediary stockbrokers. So the session rooms were closed, and rather than inviting them to the rooms, everything is handled through mobile phones via Zoom calls or some video conferencing. So what happened during this period, if I'm giving to you numbers, and operational productivity, the account number in 2019 actually happened 1.5 times higher in the last 1.5 years. So digital onboarding is a new way. Without they come to the branches, they are opening new accounts. Because of the pandemic, maybe it was accelerated. With the decisions of the capital market boards, I believe it's going to be much more accelerated, and also inviting customers to the branches is going to be even something rare in the future. And with the development of the technologies, digital processing and transaction channels have become much more widespread, especially in 2019 numbers, so that we can see before pandemic and after pandemic. 2019 total income, 50% of it was from electronic channels, but as of 2021, it has reached up to 76%. So as of yesterday, it's become 76%. So there is an enormous increase. By the way, these are made through investor advisors, portfolio advisors. So what happened when this technology changed in that way? What happened in our lives with this changes? Actually, information has become much more valuable. Information is accessible by everyone, but the most important thing is the correct information, rather than all general information, rather than other markets, rather than capital market boards and the other instruments. One CEO tweets maybe can change the flow of the cash or the capital, but we don't know whether this is correct information or not. What should we do in this aspect? So we have to be providing them an environment so that they can reach to clean information. And in my own area, I'd like to talk about certain things because it's on a gray area in Turkey. And I think it's not very much appreciated in terms of its growth. In 2016, Stock Exchange has adopted Nasdaq technology and has adopted a new transformation, and it has been placed on the very center of Stock Exchange of Istanbul. Thanks to this transition, Alga Funds and HFC Funds and other companies in international arena entered into our lives, local and domestic and international ones. You might have felt that there was a boom again on the investors. 1 billion TL was the record back then, but right now the transaction volume is way much higher than this. So along with this, a technological transformation was also very much appreciated by the stockbrokers. The stock exchange did not announce it, but more than 40% algorithm efficacy is ongoing on the future markets because it's based on arbitrage. This is the ecosystem we are involved. So on the personal expenditure, we can say that it's at the very top levels, and on the IT and technology investments, it's almost at the level of personal expenditure. I believe that it's going to outnumbering personal expenditure because the structure is changing all the time. Last year, physical servers were bought, but we can't use them right now because they can't catch up with our pace. For instance, there is this new term, maybe it was just because of my lack of information, we used to be using some seconds. For instance, getting a stock on stock exchange, there's 300 seconds. This is the rounds period. So when the stockbroker just controls it and then it's sent to the stock exchange, it's 300 seconds. It might be fast to you, but I'm saying that this is flash. It's like the billions of these seconds. It's like nanoseconds. It's very fast. And I think it's going to be picoseconds. There is this new, it's like the quadrillion, way smaller than normal seconds. So Mehmet Bey and I were chatting beforehand. As of this moment, there are certain funds that are managed by the machineries. We are only monitoring and they can provide certain level of investment income. This area is going to grow, and companies and also investors, just to survive or just to stay as the players in the sector, they have to catch up with this trends. Along with the technological transformation in the post-pandemic period, the interest map of the investors changed. 2.5 million is the number of the investors, and in the last 1.5 years, we received much more than the current investors in terms of their number. In the past, finance sector was much appreciated and the production sector was much attracted, but currently technological companies, especially in the IPOs, are much more attracted by the investors, and health sector after pandemic has become much more attractive to the investors. Pandemic has affected the behaviors of the customers. HFTs or algos come to Turkey. So what happened afterwards? They decreased our expenditures of the transactions, and the stockbrokers, maybe you might have certain calculations, and it could be also valid for different banks. Consumers and investors were checking. It was like the bloody ocean, and in that rate, the stockbrokers were chasing after commission, not service, because services were almost the same. But right now, investors can reach to this information about service. So rather than commission fee or else something in this respect, they just want to get the good quality service. So in the previous part, you were saying that what should we do aftermath? So we should be providing digital investments advisory. It's going to be launched, and certain brands are going to be used for the stocks and also pensions. The robo advisors will be made available, and for a year and a half, we've been testing them. In the upcoming year, in the first quarter, they're going to be launched to the market. So what's going to happen afterwards? Investors' decision mechanisms are going to be supported. It could be investment advisory implementation done by the investors themselves, or they could lead portfolio. There are different robo-advisor service companies in the world. By the way, Wealthfront, I guess they have $1 billion of the value on the market. And in Turkey, by the way, the regulation is not very much in line with the other countries, but digital investment advisory concept will be activated by our institution, and I believe there will be much more investments from the sector. And in the past, as you all know, from TV channels, from magazines, we were following what was going on this stock exchange. But in our current projects, within just 7 seconds, you can write a quantitative report to any company. And as I've stated before, with digitalization, technological use is going to be much more increased, and everything is going to be at the center of technology. Thank you very much. You have summarized everything in just 10 minutes. Thank you.
Gerçekten de bu dijital dönüşüm çok enteresan. Sosyal medyanın.
Well, that digital transformation is really interesting. How the financial companies are getting more and more each and every day. You were talking about the clean information, in particular in the SMEs. There are many manipulative transactions that is ongoing, and these manipulators do really know the behavioral tendencies. So they can actually create a rumor about a certain stock, for instance, and then there are so many actually investors that are actually believing it. And in Foda, together with Mehmet, for instance, we have also written a document about this on how the clean information is important. But what you say is very much important. Democratization of all the information is very much important, because those who have a saving of 5,000 euro, 10,000 euro, for instance, a citizen who is actually saving 1,000 liras per year, per month, unfortunately cannot get any kind of a consultation. That's the reason why the Robo consultation is very much important. And I believe that this is going to be a great service for our citizens. And now, and Mehmet Gazi, let me introduce him to you. He is one of the most important portfolio manager. I have known him for years, and we have also worked together. We've been working in Foda as well for many years. And he is also this CIO. And how to translate it into Turkish? Well, it's not easy. Chief Intelligence Officer is generally said. And yes, Mehmet, in the last period of time, a portfolio selection has become very prominent. We have become really good in the portfolio and also with the product range. And we have taken a lot of steps, and I suppose that it has converted itself to a really important business. And there is actually a rising interest of investment fundings. Of course, number of investors are rising. There are some things that are not really going well as well, but for that, I would like to give the floor to you, because I do not want to delay in time. Yes, I have a few graphs, but there are three types of actually markets. So during the pandemic, for about approximately 20 months, the number of investors and also the portfolio growth, how it actually developed. We have seen the growth in the stocks actually. And the investors looking for a high return. And the investor at home was looking for excitement and looking for a game. If it would be, the main end would be investment, and we could think about also the pension insurance as well. But in that area, we do not find a lot of development, but in investors area and stocks, there have been a great amount of a development, 1.3 million, from 1.3 million to 2.5 million of accounts have been occurred. And the portfolio is reached up to 240 million from 2.3 million. So right now, $24 million. But it's right now a little less due to the currency rate of today. Now, the important thing here is that it increased threefold, and the foreign part is increased by threefold, by the way. So when the foreigner is not dealing with it, then a local person is buying it. And when we talk about stocks, we think about a high return and excitement. And because they are looking for excitement, they are dealing with it. And I have seen it in the investors myself. And we have also investment funds, the area where we are a little bit more active. The number of investors, there is not much of a difference here. From 2.8 million to 3 million of a growth is seen here. And the number is higher than the stock investor, but this is because of the money fund, which is automatically opened. We all have it. For instance, if you have an account in the Guarantee Bank, these are accounts that are automatically opened. I suppose that 2 million out of 3 million are such accounts, and the real investor here is less than 1 million, I believe. But here again, the portfolio has increased from 90 billion to 163 billion. So I can say that the currency rate funds are getting is growing better, so that they can actually protect themselves from devaluation. And the funds that have currency rates like are making funds based on dollars, and there are changing funds, for instance. And there are different instruments so the people that want to stay away from Turkish liras have different types of options here as well. So even though it's going slow, we have a certain development. The portfolio investors are more competitive. There are different types of opportunities and options. The thing that is not sufficient here is that to know the investor, the sector is still not at a good point right now. Why? Because this business, the investment consultancy business, are seen in portfolio companies or in intermediate tools. But taking a look to the United States, we see that the independent consultants of investments are really strong here, just like in different, for instance, areas of the United States. They are creating an independent service. Just like you go to a doctor for health, you go for finances to an investment consultant. So if you're going to get a real estate fund, for instance, or credit loan, you just talk with them, get into connection with them, so that this market develops properly. Then I believe that an independent consultancy is very much necessary. This is not yet been developed properly, because for the market to grow, I believe this is very much important, because the investment consultants, as we have talked before, the behavioral economy, etc. These are those who can actually realize this. Expecting this from individuals is not actually a reality. So the CEOs here, there are volunteers, there are pension there are people who have pension funds are higher in number. In total, 187 billion saving is what we can talk up. And there's the automatic participation fund. And it is also one of the most important implementation of economy. And he's not actually saving there, but you're getting automatically into the system, and then they cannot get out of it later on. So this is how you act here. But this implementation was not successful in Turkey, because normally in the Anglo-Saxon countries, when 100 people is involved, only 10 leaves it. In Turkey, however, approximately 70 out of 100 leave it. Only 30 of them stay. The reason why it's unsuccessful lays down also different aspects here, not believing in the system or not properly being explained. There are actually wrong explanations here. And in the last 7 years, the situation of Turkey is not really well. But I'm sure that in the future, we can actually envision it in a better way, and I suppose that it can be successful. The pension system, the number of investors. And Ali Babacan, when he was also a minister, was following this on a weekly basis, because the real saving world is here. the number, the people in the system were 6.9 million. For a long period of time, it didn't actually reach up to 7 million for a long term. And the reason why is that there was no investment consultants at all. And then Ariel has also said during the pandemic, the expenditures of the people were lesser, etc. But in Turkey, we do not see any kind of an action movement here in the pension funds. So the reason why is, I suppose, the lack of investment consultants. Not only investment consultants, but also in mortgage and realty as well. We believe that's very much important that we can open up the system's future. Thank you very much for your explanation.
This investment advisor issue should be known. When it is nourished and drenched with technology, investors will be provided a great environment for service. We have already run out of our time, and there are not many questions, by the way. So for that reason, I'd like to thank our panelists, and then I'd like to thank the Union of Capital Markets Board for organizing this event. And also, there is this content committee. I'm also a part of it, even though it's a small part, but with a common sense, with a common mind, we brought out these topics because I believe it's a very lecturing, very full conference in terms of content and information. We've discussed stock exchanges, portfolio management, everything. I'd like to thank everyone who has exerted their efforts, our audience as well. Thank you very much for your patience. Once again, thank you.